How you behave in your life ultimately affects how you behave in the bedroom, down to a physiological level. I've helped a lot of guys overcome anxiety in the bedroom, including psychogenic dysfunctions. I'm talking ED, PE. A lot of guys have both. And one of the first things I recommend is that they go watch or rewatch the first episode of Breaking Bad. There's a certain sequence of scenes in this first episode that demonstrate some key principles about male behavior, libido, and sexual confidence. So we're going to watch it together, and then I'm going to break it down. And this is pretty near and dear to me because back when Breaking Bad was on air, I was suffering from psychogenic ED. I was 23, just started dating in New York City. I had a number of very humiliating experiences in a row. And it got to the point where I was actually totally hooked on the blue pill for an entire year of my life, despite everything physically with me being okay. And I actually remember seeing this episode and being a little confused by what I was watching as far as the sequence of scenes. Not totally understanding, but maybe recognizing that there was something about my sexual problem that actually had nothing to do with sex. So let's jump into the episode. Episode 1, there's a bunch of establishing scenes showing Walter White's status quo life, basically that he's a beta male, takes shit from a lot of people, and actually this scene itself does demonstrate it, so let's watch. This is right after his 50th
How's it doing?
Well, I met my reserve, and there's still 2 minutes.
Wife is selling stuff on eBay.
What's up?
You tell me, birthday boy. Oh, hey, so what's up for Saturday?
Car wash. Bogdan says he needs me.
Until what time? Noon? 1-ish?
So you see, even giving him his birthday hand job
And then what after that?
doesn't require full attention.
Actually, I was thinking of driving up to Los Alamos. They've got this visitor center has an exhibit on. It's really supposed to be
You're not gonna paint?
paint. It's just
Something he wants to do is for his birthday, but here he
this
is
exhibition on the
deferring to obligations to someone
Mars
else.
rover photographs. I mean, the detail really is just supposed to be amazing.
Clearly not enthusiastic about his own life.
At some point. I mean, the sooner that back bedroom gets finished, and I do it myself, except you said you don't want me standing
I'll
on the
paint.
step ladders.
I will paint.
Okay, backing up, doing what someone else wants.
What is going on down there?
Obviously, his body's not having a good
Is he
time.
asleep?
Oh, it's nothing. It's just. You gotta be careful about the baby.
Well, don't worry about the baby. This is just for you.
So you can see he's not
We are
really
just
engaging with even
doing
this moment of his life.
right.
And she obviously doesn't
Just
really
close
care,
your
giving him his
eyes.
obligatory hand job.
Relax and let it. Close your eyes.
Okay.
Commanding him.
There you go. That's it. That's it. There you go. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep. Yes! 56! Oh!
Scene says it all, right? It says exactly what the relationship's like, says what his character's like, takes shit from everyone. Beta male in the sense that he's willing to defer what he wants, what he cares about for everyone else. Then throughout the episode, we get to see the beginning of his transformation. He gets his call to adventure, finding out he has terminal cancer, decides to break bad, cooking meth to make money to provide for his family, and ends up in an adventure where he accidentally thinks he kills 2 drug dealers in self-defense and comes home with a bag of cash. And then we see this final scene of the episode.
Out for love. I'm walking out really down in a cool breeze. I'm gonna be late again. Driver, wait for me, please. I'm running all in vain, trying to catch this train.
Nice juxtaposition.
I throw my watch to the floor. It's gone crazy. Time don't do it again. Now I'm stressed.
Where were you?
Anger and pain in the subway train.
Walt. I don't know what's been going on with you lately, but Whatever it
He's
is,
finally having his own life in a
I'll
sense.
tell you this.
Makes her
I
uncomfortable.
do not like it when you don't talk to me. The worst thing you can do is shut me out.
Time don't fool me no more. I throw my watch to the floor, it's gone crazy. Time don't do it again. Now I'm stressed and strained.
So we already see a very different Walt in bed.
Subway train. Long gone the rendezvous.
We also see her engagement. She's actually responding to this.
Oh, baby, can't you see? It's a time of tragedy. Think it's 9 when the clock says 10. This girl won't wait for the out of time, out of man.
Walt, is that you?
Implication that she doesn't even recognize his anatomy because he's so different. There's a phenomenon known as the winner effect, where when one takes a risk, a meaningful risk, and succeeds, his testosterone and dopamine levels temporarily rise. The converse being the loser effect, when one takes a risk and fails, his testosterone drops. There's a lot of studies supporting this. One of the more famous ones was done by James Stabbs at Georgia State University during the 1994 FIFA World Cup, where the team measured the salivary testosterone levels of the Brazilian versus Italian fans before and after the game. And they found that the Brazilian fans, because Brazil won, their testosterone levels almost doubled, where the Italian fans' testosterone levels dropped almost in half. The reason for this phenomenon is that when males engage in male-male competition, the winner is supposed to mate with the females, the loser is supposed to retreat and recover. Anecdotally, this is confirmed by people who are in high competition, high-risk environments. So in the episode of Breaking Bad, we see that when Walter breaks bad, when he gets his cancer diagnosis, when he begins to assert what he wants, put himself out there, he is taking risks, right? He talks back to his boss, he confronts, some guy bullying his son. He takes these risks, they begin to pay off, and he gets this essentially a hormonal boost. And this is consistent with the fact that when I meet guys with psychogenic sexual dysfunctions, including myself back in the day, they're typically living very safe lives. They are not taking risks. They are not putting their will out into the world where it could be rejected, where they could fail. They're kind of going along with what other people want because it's much safer. And I actually think this is why shows like Breaking Bad or movies like Fight Club are so archetypally stimulating to many men, because it's giving us this playbook. It's reminding us that you're not really valuable as a man unless you're taking these important risks. Which brings us to our second principle, which is on aggression, predators, and prey. Obviously, we're entering taboo territory, so please listen to the full context of this, because there is a relationship between aggression and human sexuality. So first, in the animal kingdom, there is a clear hormonal difference between prey animals and predator animals. In Pavel Sautsulin's book, The Quick and the Dead, that's the guy who made kettlebells famous, if you didn't know, he speaks about how we want to train ourselves, as athletes at least, to be more like predators. Because there's a hormonal difference in that these animals have different adrenaline to noradrenaline ratios. Now, the key difference behaviorally between predators and prey is that the predator is the one that decides when to engage, right? The predator can wait for the right timing, for the situation to be right, to put forth his will, whereas the prey is always at the mercy of the outside world. So it needs that huge ability to have an adrenaline dump and get away, because it never knows when danger is going to come. Whereas, as in later in the season, Breaking Bad, Walter White says,
I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
So what does this have to do with sexuality? Well, males evolved to procreate from the initiator, or we can call the predator position, from being the one who initiates the tension, from being the one who knocks, so to speak. So we can see in the first scene, Walt is basically living his life as a prey animal, right? He's completely passive to the world, letting other people's wills, external circumstances dictate his behavior, as opposed to once he starts Breaking Bad, he's the initiator. He's the one who puts forth his will. Again, he's the one who knocks. Something I've heard a lot from guys with psychogenic ED is that it doesn't always happen. It only happens with women they really like. If they end up in bed with a woman they don't really care about so much, everything works fine. But if they're in bed with a woman who they think is so beautiful, so much better than them, out of their league, and essentially they put them on a pedestal, that's when it doesn't work, right? Just the phrase putting her on a pedestal suggests that you are deferring your will to her. You are putting yourself at her mercy. Essentially, you are becoming the prey. And not only do women find that extremely unattractive, but a man's body actually will fail to respond properly when he puts himself in that role. That's not how men evolved to have sex. So my suggestion to guys in this situation is to make sure you are initiating based on your desire. Something happens when you enter that initiator role, that predator mode, if you will. Whereas when you start to initiate based on your desire, assuming the woman in the situation is down with the experience, it allows her to enter her natural state, a more receptive state, which is how women evolve to experience sexuality, which will make you feel more comfortable and encourage you to become more of an initiator. And you create this positive feedback loop where both of you get to become more turned on in a very natural way. And your body will respond better when you are the initiator, rather being in the prey mode of fight or flight, which obviously won't allow you to get turned on. Which brings us to our last point. But first, real quick, if sexual confidence is something you're working on, you might want to check out my Arousal Control Secrets course. I go through physical and mental exercises that teach you how to control the arousal in your body. Right now, it's 50% off from now until Cyber Monday. It also comes with a free coaching session with me if you want to discuss the psychological side of things. I've helped hundreds of guys in this department, including almost 100% success rate in curing psychogenic dysfunctions. And if just coaching is what you're interested in, you can apply for that directly. Both links are included in the video description. So our final principle here might seem like a contradiction to the last one. It's what I'll call parasympathetic dominance. So your autonomic nervous system has sympathetic mode, fight or flight, and parasympathetic, feed and breed. Anytime you're anxious, nervous, worried, your sympathetic nervous system is likely more active, whereas the parasympathetic one is clearly where more ease, more confidence, more charisma, and better sex comes from. And the two are very related. When Lieutenant Colonel Grossman, author of The Psychology of Killing, was on my podcast a couple of years ago, he shared the idea of parasympathetic backlash, speaking about how it's been well documented that when a police officer survives a firefight, very often it's been reported that he'll go home, have the best sex of his life with his wife, and then go into the deepest sleep he's ever been in. It's called parasympathetic backlash because after a very high arousal sympathetic state, right, literally a fight to the death, a shootout with a criminal, surviving, winning, essentially he goes into deep recovery mode where he can have amazing sex and sleep better than he has ever had in his life. Because while aggression and taking risks and putting forth your will is extremely important for male sexuality, it's not that you need to be in a fighting mode all the time. In fact, that's not good. That's not going to lead to good sex. Walking around with a chip on your shoulder, being hyper aggressive, constantly turning everything into a competition. One, that's not attractive, but two, it's not good for your libido either. In the animal kingdom, a true alpha male is able to enact aggression, violence at times when it's called for. But then because of that, he actually is able to go into a more relaxed state. Because you can imagine if you are consistently taking appropriate risks and winning, if you're consistently putting forth your will when it's appropriate, then chances are your life is probably pretty chill. You've probably built enough security in your life that you don't have to be reactive to the world. Truly high status people are not at war all the time. They get to actually enjoy their life most of the time, being in that parasympathetic state most of the time. To be clear, I'm not talking about self-care the way that it's usually spoken about in feminine personal development. It's about earning your rest. So we can see in the second scene, Walt essentially enters parasympathetic backlash, right? He engaged in risk. He had to do violence. He won, comes home and makes love to his wife in a way that maybe he never has had ever before. Because ultimately, even though the word libido is commonly used as a synonym for sex drive, when Freud coined this term for psychological use, he was actually referring to a lust for life. It was the drive of the psyche, which yes, can include sexuality, but it's more about putting yourself out in the world and enjoying your experience. So this sequence of episode 1 of Breaking Bad demonstrates 3 key principles about the male libido and sexual confidence that will hopefully be useful to you, those being winning, aggression, and parasympathetic dominance. Goodbye.